Hi everyone, I am Sreekanth. We are discussing programming in C language. The topic is about basics of C programming language. The agenda of this session is about hash define, like defining constants in C language with an example program. In the previous video session, we discussed in detail about const keyword. What is const keyword? How to declare, define and initializing the value, and how to restrict without modifying the constants value at a program level. We discussed in detail with the example program. If you missed the session, kindly check it out the previous video session about const keyword with example program. In this session, we are discussing another way to define constants in C language using hash define preprocessor. Hash defined preprocessor is a directive is used to define constant or micro substitution. The hash defined preprocessor directive is used to define constant or micro substitution. It can use any basic data type. A symbolic constant is a name that substitutes for a sequence of characters. The characters may represent a numeric constant, a character, or a string constant. Symbolic constants are usually defined at the beginning of a program. Here, the C preprocessor is the macro preprocessor for the C, Objective C, and C++ computer programming languages. The preprocessor provides the ability for the inclusion of header files, macro expansions, conditional compilation, and line control. That is the advantage for using what? Preprocessor. Here we are discussing only one simple topic called hash define. We try to discuss in detail various preprocessor in C language in the next coming sessions. And macros. Here the syntax to represent hash define token value. Hash define, here name text. Observe very carefully, not declared any equals, not terminated with a semicolon. Why? Because hash define is a preprocessor. Examples like hash define rate 0.23, hash define pi 3.14. See, observe here, we can define these name either small case, uppercase. But as we discussed in the previous video session also, constant should be declared what? Uppercase letter. We can easily differ constant to the normal variables. See, that is advantage for declaring what? Uppercase. But we can differ either small or upper cases, not an issue. Has defined rate 0.23, has defined pi 3.14, has defined true is the name. Value is what? 1. Why? Because in C language there is no boolean type explicitly for defining true and false. But if you go with the high level programming languages like Java, their boolean value, true means true, false means false. But in C language, the true is going to be represented in the number called 1. The false is going to be represented with what? 0. The value is what? 0. We'll discuss in detail in the next topic called operators, how the result is going to be comes with the true and false values. Okay, I want to define that true value and false value as a constant in C language. Then we go with the hash define preprocessor. Hash define max value 10, hash define min value 0, hash define city Hyderabad. Like, I want to define the constants for what? The basic data types. These are all the basic data type examples. Okay, we try to discuss one by one. So I go with one example called hash define. In the previous video session we discussed how to define constants using const keyword with a value called pi. Now we try to discuss hash define, how to use hash define to define constants in C programming language. So I'm opening the new source file. Here I'm going to be discussing what? Hash define example 1. Okay, start with the header file. Hash include stdio.h. Here I'm defining hash define. Okay, I'm defining the value pi. What is the value of pi? 3.14. Okay, assume. See, here I'm going to be defining the constant. It is a preprocessor before executing the main function. It going to be loaded, pre-processed. That is the advantage for using what? Macros, preprocessors. Okay. Void main function. Execution always begin and end with what? Main function. Here I am printing the value of pi. Print f pi value. Output message is equals to what type? Floating point data type. Here 3.14 represents what? Float to type. I'm using a format specifier percentile f, comma. What is the name of the variable? Constant variable is what? Pi. That's it. Save this application. Example I define example1.c. Save this application. Compile this application. Shortcut is F9. Run this application. Shortcut is F10. We got the value. Pi value equals to 3.14. So it is a preprocessor. Before executing the main function, it is going to be pre-processed using what? Macro hash define pi 3.14. Don't give any semicolon here. Not required to terminate any semicolon. If you try to terminate with a semicolon, we may get what? Compile time error. What is that error? Error is expected before like token in expansion of what? Macro pi. Clearly it is telling, right? It's a macro. What we are discussing now has defined preprocessor that is defining what? Macros. Okay, like suppose I used here equal. Okay, don't use any equal, but I try to use equal. Then you try to compile this application, we may get again compile time error. What is that error? Expected expression before equal token. I told you, right? You can give the name. You can give the name either pi, or we can give the value called 3.14. Okay, so observe here. We can define here pi is nothing but what? Name or token. Okay, the value is what? Okay, just a moment. Okay, here the pi equals to what? 3.14. It is clearly telling about what? Pi error expected expression before equals to token. Pi is nothing but what? Token or name. It is clearly telling the error. Error is expected expression before equals to token. Another one called note in expansion of macro pi. So it is clearly telling that it is a macro pi. You cannot initialize with the assignment operator called equals. Cannot be used equals. Cannot be used what? Semicolon. Okay, while defining what? Preprocessor or macro. So run this application, happily it's going to be executed. Suppose I try to modify this value, I try to alter this value. Observe, I am going to be altering this value like pi equals to something 3.245 something. I try to modify, we may get what? Immediately a compile time error. What is that error? You cannot modify this macro. L value required as a left operand of what? Assignment. We cannot be altered. We cannot be modify this macro. Okay. See, that is the advantage for using what? Macros. This is the another way we can define what? Constants in C language. Okay. I hope everyone is clear about this example for defining the macro or preprocessor and how to declare, define, initialize, and how to print that value. Okay, I go with the another example. You may understand much understandability about what? Macros. See, macros not only defining what? Constant values, we can also check the what? Conditions. Okay, observe, I want to find minimum and maximum value of the given values. So I go with the second example, example 2. Okay, here I try to include, I'm including stdio.h header file. Here I'm writing the macro. How to define preprocessor? Hash define. I am going to be writing min function a comma b. Okay, here I'm writing one token min. I am passing the value a comma b. I want to print, I want to check the value a and b and print what? Minimum value only. Then how to check this condition? Here I'm going to be writing the condition. Here I'm writing the condition a greater than b. If condition is true, a greater than b. If condition is true, print a. So this is about condition operators. We try to discuss elaborately in the next coming session with the operators topic. Okay, it is a true statement is going to be printing. So this colon indicates what? False statement. Here I'm checking the condition. If a greater than b is going to be okay. First I'm checking what? Minimum value. I can okay. I'm finding what? Minimum, right? Then you can write here a less than b. If condition is true, a less than b condition is true. Assume 100 less than 200. Here I'm taking one example. 100, a value is 100, b value is 200. Assume 100 less than 200. Okay, I try to write here. You can understand easily. A value is 100. Assume b value is 200. 100 less than 200. I'm writing here. If condition is true, 100 less than 200, condition is what? True, because 100 is less than 200. Once condition is true, which value is going to be printed? A value is going to be printed. A value is how much? 100. 100 is the minimum value is going to be printing. Suppose I given like 200 less than 10. Condition true or false? False. 200 is not less than 10. Then it going to be prints what? B value. B value is going to be printed. This is called condition. When condition is false, then it going to be prints what? Colon related statement value. B is going to be printed. So this is called conditional operators. We will discuss elaborately in the next session, but try to understand in macro, in the preprocessor, not only defining the constant values, we can also check what? Conditions. Okay. So clear this? Fine. Okay. So now I try to write the main function. See, before starting the main, this preprocessor is going to be checking this condition when you are passing the value, that is going to be loaded and pre-processed. So now I try to print this value. I want to find the minimum value. Print f. I'm going to be finding minimum value between 100. Suppose example I taken 100, right? 100 and 200. You can give any value. 100 and 200 is percentile D. Okay, comma. What is the constant? What is the token name? Min. Min is the token name. I'm passing the value. Assume A value is 100, B value is 200. You can give any meaningful values here. You can pass any values, but I am passing here 100. It's going to be stores in A. I'm passing another value called 200. It's going to be stores in B variable. Then checking the condition, 100 less than 200. Condition is true. Then it's going to be prints what? A value. A is what? 100, right? So I'm going to be taking define example 2.c language. Save this application, compile this application, run this application. See, we got it, right? So the minimum value between 100 and 200 is what? 100. So you can pass any value, it's going to be print the result. Again, I want to pass minimum. Okay, example, minimum value between, okay, like 10 and 5. Okay, 10 and 5. Now the value of 10 is 10 value is going to be stores in A variable, and 5 stores in what? B variable. So now tell me the condition, what it going to be print. A value is how much? 10 less than B value, how much we are passing? 5. 10 less than 5. Condition is what? False. Then which value is going to be print now? B value is going to be printed. Okay, B value is how much? 5. 5 is going to be printed. So just check it out once. Compile this application. Shortcut is F9. There is no any errors. Run this application. It's going to be prints what? Minimum value between 10 and 5 is what? 5. See, we are written the condition only one time. This macro is going to be defined the condition only one time, but we can pass the values any number of times. See, that is advantage for using what? Macros. Okay. So I want to print in the new line. The cursor should be print in the new line. You can use escape sequences what? /n. Once again compiling this application, run this application. So observe the minimum value between 100 and 200 is 100. Minimum value between 10 and 5 is what? 5. So that is the way we can find what? Minimum value. Okay. You're getting the space right. You can give /n here. Fine. Similarly, I want to find what? Maximum value. I want to find the maximum value. How to check the condition with the macro? So again, I'm writing another condition. Has defined. Has defined. What is the token name? I try to write the token is what? Max of A comma B. Here I am checking the condition A greater than B. Once A greater than B condition is true, then it prints A is the maximum value. Otherwise it going to be prints what? B is the maximum value. Okay, similarly I am going to be sending value same. You can take any example. Here I am going to be passing the value. Observe. Here I am passing the value with some differences. Okay, just I am giving the difference of this min and max. Okay, it is not required. Okay. Here I'm going to be writing what? /n. Okay, fine, that's it. So now I try to print what? Maximum value between 100 and 200 is. So maximum value between 100 and 200 is what? What is the variable name? Max 100 comma 200. I am passing what? Max 100 comma 200. Then A value is going to be stores max is what? 100. B value is going to be stores 200. 100 greater than 200. Condition is false. Condition become what? False. Check the condition here. I am writing A value is what? 100 greater than max value. I'm checking the condition 100 greater than 200. Condition is what? False. 100 is not greater than 200. Then it going to be prints which value? B value. B value is how much? 200 is the maximum value. It's going to be print B value is a maximum value. See, that is advantage for checking the condition at using what? Macros, and easily it's going to be print the results. See, observe, compiling the application, run this application. Observe very carefully. We are finding already minimum value. Now I am finding what? Maximum value between 100 and 200 is what? 200. Just I am passing the value, and condition is going to be written. Macro is going to be written only one time, but we can reuse that any number of times. Okay. Similarly, I am going to be finding the maximum value between what? 10 and 5. I'm finding maximum value between 10 and 5. Now the A value is how much? 10. B value is how much? 5. Check the condition. 10 greater than 5. A value is how much? 10. B value is how much we are passing? 5. 10 greater than 5. Condition is true or not? Yes. Condition is true. Which value is going to be printed? A value is going to be printed. A value is going to be how much? 10 is going to be printed. So this is the way we can define what? Macro preprocessor. Okay. And we can reuse that preprocessor any number of times in the program. See, observe. I'm finding maximum value between 10 and 5 is. Compile the application F9, run the application with the F10. See, observe, the output is what? Maximum value between 100 and 200 is what? 200. Maximum value between what? 100 and 5 is what? Just a moment. We are not changing the function name, I think. Yes. We are calling min function. That is the reason it printing min value. Now I am changing what? Maximum value, right? Yeah. Recompile, rerun this application. See, now observe the output. The maximum value between 100 and 200 is what? 200. Maximum value between 10 and 5 is what? 10. So this is the way we can find minimum value and maximum value without writing any condition in the within the main function. So I return conditions, token, everything in the preprocessor only. So that is advantage for using what? Has define. Has define not only defining the constants, we can also check the conditions, controls, okay, line controls, everything using the advantage for what? Hash define preprocessor. Okay, we can also discuss some other example. Okay, for applying has defined what? Basic data types. So I try to apply has defined what? Basic data type. One by one we try to discuss. Okay, example 3. Example 3 has defined example 3. Fine. So I try to include hash include stdio.h. So I'm including stdio.h. One by one we try to print has defined preprocessor. First I'm printing what? One character. Okay, like example C1. In previous video session also explained, right, how to print constants of basic data types. Here also I'm going to be printing Macro has defined C1 is a token. The value is what? S. How to define characters? Always characters are represented with what? Single quote. That's it. Okay. So now I'm printing this value using within the main function. Okay. So observe printf. I'm printing the value of what? Character constant value. Like simply char value is equals to how to print the character format specifier percentile C. Okay. I want to print the cursor in the new line. Use escape sequences slash n. See what is the constant name? C1. C is a capital letter I written. Okay. Yes. Save this application. Example3 dot C language. Okay. Save this application. Compile this application. Run this application. Observe the char value is going to be printed S or not S. Using preprocessor, using has defined, we can initialize the character constant value and we can print that value. Okay. Similarly, I go with the integral type, integral value like max value. I want to print max and min values. Okay. Observe. I want to print max and min value. Simply I'm writing here max. Okay. Max value I'm printing 10. Okay. Min value I am printing 0. See where we are using these max and min values. Normally we are using the constant called like static value declarations. Example like arrays concept. There I want to define the maximum value of the particular array size in a single dimensional, multi-dimensional arrays. Instead of declaring static values, we can use this has defined max 10 like that. Okay. Max value also can write simply written max 10 as defined min 0. Okay. Save this application. I'm printing here max and min values. Okay. Like max value, what type? Integral type, percentile D. Okay. What is the name of the constant? Max. Similarly, I try to print min value. Min value. What is the constant? Min. Save this application. Compile this application. Shortcut is F9. Run this application. Shortcut is F10. Observe char value printing, max value printed, min value is printed. Okay. See, we can reuse this macro value anywhere in the program. Okay. Not required to every time give that value fixed in the programs. Okay. Fine. So next I want to define what like constant. Just only we discussed, right? Like float value. Okay. Has defined pi. I'm writing just only we define some value like pi. Okay. Or you can use any value constant to some value called 10.25. Okay. I define some constant 10.25. What type? It is a float type value. Then how to print this float type value? Using format specifier percentile F. Okay. C2 value or float value percentile F. It's about what? Float value. Okay. Save this application. Compile this application, run this application. It's going to be printing the constant value or not? Float value. Okay, just I'm printing this float constant value I printed. Similarly, I'm going to be printing what? Some constant has defined. I'm printing the constant called Boolean type. C language does not consist directly Boolean type true and false in the basic keywords, right? It won't support that keyword. Here I try to define some constant. Has defined true. Okay. Always in C language, true value is represented 1. Okay. False value is represented 0. False represented with the value 0. Here I am defining that constant. Has defined true means 1, false means what? 0. So now I am printing true and false values. Observe. So I am defining the constant with the name called true value. Okay. How to print this a true value? Is an integral type or Boolean type or character type? Integral type, right? See, 1 is a number, 0 is a number, integral type. Simply you can print percentile D. Similarly, I'm printing false value, false value. We are printing what? False. Save this application, compile this application, run this application. So we are getting the results, right? So in this way, we can apply has defined preprocessor for what? Character type, integral types, floating point types, and also I declared for what integral type with the true and false to define in the C programming. Okay, so next I try to print the value name constant I want to print. Again I go with the has define printing what name Sreekanth. Okay, Sreekanth. I am printing some name constant value SreekanthDeva or Sreekanth. Fine. So I am printing the constant name using the preprocessor hash define. Okay, observe name I am going to be printing. Okay, how to print this name is equals to simply I'm printing name is equals to what type string type percentile s. So after the name there is no any other line, not required to write /n. Okay, print that name. Output variable is what name variable. Save this application, compile this application, run this application. So in this way we can define preprocessor for basic data types. See, as define is not only used for as a constant value in the C program as a preprocessor or macro, it also used for what line control, conditional checking, and also apply these as defined for what basic data types in C programming. So this is the output for what hash define applied for what all the basic data types in the C programming. So that is the advantage for using what hash define. In this session we discussed in detail about hash define preprocessor directives used to define what constant or micro substitution. Okay, so this is a basic example I provided, and also conditions, and also applied with what basic data types. See, this is the advantage for using what hash define. See here hash define is nothing but what hash define is a preprocessor. Hash define is what preprocessor. In C preprocessor is the macro preprocessor for the C or Objective C and C++ computer programming languages. The preprocessor provides what the ability for the inclusion of what header files, macro expansions, conditional compilation, and line control. See, this is the advantage for using what preprocessor in C language. See, in many C implementations, it is a separate program invoked by the compiler as the first part of what transition. See, that is the advantage for using what hash define. The constants are generally in C language. The constants are represented in C language in two different ways using const keyword, another called hash define preprocessor. Okay, that's it for today's session. Thank you for watching my videos. Thank you all viewers.